Many of our students find that the infinite way is difficult for them to prove, to demonstrate. And the main reason for this is that we have all been taught one form or another of truth, and we approach the subject of truth as if all principles were the same. Usually the statement is, oh well, there's only one truth. In an absolute sense, that may be true, that there is only one truth. But there are 100 ways of reaching the realization and demonstration of truth. It would not be correct to say that there is only one approach to truth. That would take us back into the dim, dark days when the Hebrews felt that they were God's chosen people, and the Catholics felt that only they had the true God, and so on around the religious circle. There is no such thing as one approach to truth. There is only one truth. But be assured of this, that no one on the face of the earth is going to accept the one truth. The one truth that is can only be accepted, realized, demonstrated through an actual experience. It cannot be demonstrated and it cannot be proven, and no one can even believe it when it is told them. All of that one truth that you hear about can be summed up in 2 words. No one has ever been able to write a book of truth. There never has been a book written of truth, because there is no way of expanding the truth beyond 2 words. After you have said those 2 words, or thought them, or read them, you have read, thought, heard all of the truth that has ever been revealed. Now, we go back in our search for truth as far as 3,000 to 4,000 years BC. And we have the records of revealed truth that far back. And wherever truth has been revealed, it has been revealed in the same 2 words. We first come across it in India, and then in Egypt, and across into Greece, Rome, and the Holy Lands. In between, it's found in Persia and Arabia. But always, wherever it is revealed in the same 2 words. And therefore, to say that truth is one is absolutely true. And those 2 words you have heard over and over again. You've never been able to accept them. You never will be able to, until you arrive at them by experience, not by hearing them, not by reading them. And since there is no mystery about it, I can tell you or repeat to you what you already know. The 2 words are, I am. This is the secret of all time. This is the secret of all original revelations. It is to be found in the Advaita of India. It is to be found in the mystery schools of Egypt. It is to be found in Greece and in Rome. And of course you know that it formed the foundation of Moses' teaching. It was that enabled Moses, just one single man, one individual against all the power of Pharaoh. One individual led the Hebrews out of slavery over into at least some measure of freedom. And he did it all because of a revelation that was given to him on the Mount. The revelation was, I am. The Master, Christ Jesus, founded his entire teaching on those two words. He revealed, of course, that I am life eternal. I am the life, the way. I am the truth. Remember, here is a powerful passage. I am the way. Just think that every time you are seeking the way, or the truth, or God, the answer is, I am. There is no other way to seek than the way I am. There is no other truth to seek than the truth I am. So that if you say, as you often do, or hear, or read, that there is only one truth, you can agree on that. There is only one truth, and I am that truth. Even after you acknowledge this, you won't demonstrate it, you won't prove it, not until you, through one means or another, are lifted up in consciousness to the actual experience of truth. Moses received the truth on a mountaintop. Now, if you have been over there to the Holy Lands, and this place where it was supposed to have taken place, you'll know that it didn't take place on that mountaintop. There was no way up there. It was a wilderness. His mountaintop experience was an experience of uplifted consciousness. When you are in an uplifted consciousness, and truth reveals itself to you, you can then demonstrate it. I will illustrate that for you in this way. Any of you who have ever been or served as a practitioner or done healing work will certainly know that there isn't any truth that you know that does healing. There isn't any of us that knows any truth that will heal. Nobody. I don't care what you know or think you know, it doesn't heal. If it did, everyone else could read it and heal also. You must remember that out of 1 million Christian scientists, probably no more than 10,000 ever were listed in the journal as practitioners, out of perhaps more than 1 million. In all of the Unity students, all of the New Thought students, count how few have ever actually been practitioners, and how few of those who were practitioners actually were good ones and did good healing work. And then you say, why? They all had the same books. Yes, having the books is one thing, and having the consciousness is another thing. And therefore, there is no truth that you know, I don't care how absolute it is, that can heal. There is no message of truth that can heal. It is true you may be reading a book of truth and have a healing. The book didn't do it. What did it was that you, at a particular moment, were lifted up into a consciousness above your human consciousness and received the light or healing. So a practitioner giving a treatment knows that the truth they know and the treatment they give does not perform the healing work. It is the truth they know or the treatment they give that gradually lifts them higher and higher until they come to a moment of perception in which, when it is revealed to them, there is no power but God, a whole weight drops off of their shoulders, and then a peace descends upon them, and then comes word of improvement or healing. Otherwise, you could sit and read those words that there is no power but God. You could know that from now until next week and not bring out a healing. But if through your knowing that you were lifted up in consciousness to the realization of it, from then on you would find a whole new experience. So it is with truth, regardless of the message. There has to be a way in which we are lifted above the intellectual knowledge of truth into an atmosphere of truth, an altitude of truth, a consciousness of truth. We have to be lifted up above where we just say, oh, I know error is nothing, or I know God is all. We have to be lifted up above that into the actual realization. Now, it was taught in the mystery schools, that is, the schools of wisdom, it was taught, and usually over a period of 6 or 7 years, when a person embarked on the search for truth, and they were admitted to a teacher or school, they knew that it would take 6 or 7 years before they would reach the consciousness where the truth could be revealed. In the same way, in India, disciples who found their master would usually agree to live with their teacher for 6 or 7 years, more if the teacher felt it necessary, until a certain attitude and altitude was reached, a certain consciousness, and then at that level the teacher would reveal the final truth. So it is that students of truth, if they follow a teaching that can lead them to that truth, will find that in their earliest stages they are dealing only with words and thoughts. They are dealing only with statements of truth, and they can't demonstrate them. It is only as they persist in discovering the actual principles, as they persist in practicing those principles, that the consciousness is developed. I will illustrate that for you in this way. The most sought-after demonstration in any and every school of metaphysics is that of supply. There are very few people, students of truth, who are not interested in the subject of the demonstration of supply. Now, there are many ways of demonstrating a temporary sense of supply. There are those who have just sat and visualized a lot of dollar bills and found that 10 or 20 or 50 or 100 did come into their possession, which is far from demonstrating supply, because there's a limit to how far those dollars will reach, and then the demonstration has to be made over again. There are many different teachings on how to demonstrate supply, but very few of them have ever demonstrated supply for any great length of time. And perhaps the metaphysical movement itself is the best testimony of that. Now, supply is not a difficult attainment. But in our experience, the attainment is brought about in only one way. But when it is brought about, it is a permanent dispensation. It isn't something that comes or goes, and it isn't something that is limited. But because of this, it also is not an easy attainment. It means practice. It means a faithfulness in abiding in this one principle, not trying to fluctuate one day with one kind of attempt and another day another, but adhering consistently to one. In the infinite way, the attainment of supply is brought about through a conscious oneness with God, and in no other way. No one could ever be consciously one with God and lack. Now that is an absolute statement of truth, and it's a statement of absolute truth that one cannot be consciously one with God and ever lack for anything in any way, whether it is money, safety, security, health, harmony, companionship, or anything else. It is for this reason, then, that I started by saying that many students find the infinite way a difficult way. And here's one reason. If you wish to abide by the principle of the infinite way, you have to give up anything that you have ever learned about demonstrating supply or anything else. And you have to abide in this one principle: I and my Father are one. Son, thou art ever with me. Son, thou art ever with me. Whether you're sick or well or rich or poor, thou art ever with me. And all that I have is thine. Now just think, this means withdrawing your gaze from the outer scene. It means not saying, oh, my husband won't give it to me, or my husband hasn't got it, or my wife holds back with it, or my employer won't give me what is due me, or business is bad, or we are in a depression. Actually, it means to live your outer life normally, in the way that each day calls forth, but back here, hidden from the world, is a constant reminder: Son, thou art ever with me, and all that I have is thine. I am thy bread and meat and wine and water. I am thy resurrection. I restore the lost years of the locust. I will never leave thee nor forsake thee. I will be with thee unto the end of the world. Eventually, as you live with this particular truth, never deviating, never looking outside to person, never attempting to demonstrate anything, always holding with single vision, God in the midst of me is my supply. Christ did not die 2,000 years ago. The Son of God was not sent to earth ever to leave the earth. God doesn't give and take. God doesn't give and withhold. That which God does is forever. God is the same from everlasting to everlasting. God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. And if God sent his beloved Son into this world, and the Master, said that it didn't take place 2,000 years ago. He said, before Abraham was, that's before the beginning of the Hebrew days. Before the beginning of the Hebrew days, I am. And I am with you. And I will never leave you. Therefore, the Son of God is not a man that lived 2,000 years ago. The Son of God is the Spirit of God which animated that man, but animated every spiritual light before him. Before Abraham was, I am. And this being true, the Son of God will never leave you nor forsake you. And the Son of God then is with you. But the Son of God is not in a holy mountain or in a holy temple or in a holy city. The kingdom of the Son of God is neither low here nor low there. The kingdom of the Son of God is within you. Therefore, I am in you. The Spirit of God is in you. The Spirit of God, the Christ of God, the Son of God, dwelleth in you, and this Son of God is your bread. Speaks to you in plain language and says, I am the bread of life. I have come that you might have life and that you might have it more abundantly. Now, are we to say yes 2,000 years ago, or are we to accept that I will never leave thee nor forsake thee, that I will be with thee to the end of the world? And if you accept this, then do you not see that you must leave all other means alone, all other reliances and dependencies, and not say, oh, my husband only earns this much, or my husband only gives me this much, or my wife won't do this, or my employer won't do this. But going about your daily life, living it as normally, as naturally as you can, and yet reserving back here an area in your consciousness for quietly and peacefully and joyously remembering, I have meat the world knows not of. I have meat ye out in the world know nothing of. I have bread, meat, wine, water. I have within me the power of resurrection. I have that which sings to me, I am come that ye might have life and that ye might have it more abundantly. You see, I am is really the truth. But I am must be accepted by you. First of all, ye shall know the truth. If you don't know the truth, that I am is in the midst of you, then there's no place for you to go and nothing for you to prove, nothing for you to demonstrate. First, you must know the truth. And the truth is that the I am, which carried Moses and the Hebrews from Egypt to the promised land, that I am is in the midst of you. You must know that the I am that went with Elijah into the wilderness and that enabled him to be fed by ravens and by a poor widow and to be protected, that same I am speaks to you from within you and says, I will never leave you. I was with you before Abraham. You haven't been recognizing me and acknowledging me. You've been looking outside for supply, but I am your supply. I am your bread, your meat, your wine. I am your rock and your fortress, your bomb shelter. I am your safety and your security. I am the health of your countenance. But do you not see how necessary it is to remain with this truth, with single vision? Never forsake it. Never flounce around with other thoughts, other principles, other fears, but acknowledge him in all thy ways. Acknowledge him, the Son of God, as being within you. Acknowledge that this Christ of God is closer to you than breathing, nearer than hands and feet. And probably tomorrow it will not do anything for most of you. For some it will. For some it will. Just the voicing of this last night brought healing to at least one student in the room who has told of it. Anything can happen in a second. But to many it won't until, with persistence, with adhering with single vision to this truth, like those who searched for the Holy Grail and went all around the world and came home broke and sick and downhearted, sank down at their front gate and looked around, and there it was hanging in a tree in their own yard. So it is that we go on a search for truth. We search books, and we search teachers, and we search teachings. And probably it's all necessary, just as necessary it was for King Arthur to search for the Holy Grail. It is necessary, and I wouldn't stop anyone. On the other hand, I would encourage everyone to seek for the truth if they have to seek up 99 blind alleys until they reach home, and then find that the kingdom of God is within me. The Holy Grail is hanging right in here. The Son of God is established within me. So whether I learn it in one day or 20 years, this is not important. The important thing is that the search continue until it is found. But when you have come in one way or another to where this Holy Grail is revealed, where the Son of God is being revealed to you, if you have an answering response within yourself, this is the way, then cling to it. Cling to it until you too can prove that I, in the midst of you, am your daily bread. I, in the midst of you, am all the supply you will ever need, and with 12 baskets full left over every day. That is why there is no limitation of supply on this path. Supply is infinite, but it is only brought forth into manifestation in the degree that we stop searching for it, stop seeking to demonstrate it, and realize I have it. I am it. The I of my own being is it. I will never leave you nor forsake you. I will be with you to the end of the world, and I is supply. I is supply. Son, thou art ever with me, and all that I have is thine. All that I have is thine. This I that you are discovering, that is being revealed to you, the Son of God that is within you. Just imagine that if I were to say to you that this lesson alone in this half hour would be all of the truth that you would need for the rest of your days, I would be telling you the truth. This half hour of work is all that anyone could possibly imbibe. The reason? From this, which is an infinite truth and all the truth there is, from this, everything else necessary for our unfoldment would take place. Let me illustrate that to you. In the days, the early days of the Depression, when supply was not abundant in my personal experience, and when there was certainly a need for more of it than I had or could demonstrate, and it puzzled me, because I was an active practitioner and having successful work, it puzzled me that supply was not abundant until the realization was given to me that this that I'm telling you was the reason. I did not know the nature of God. I did not know that Christ wasn't something of 2,000 years ago, but of omnipresence. I didn't know even my own identity until one day this very revelation was given to me, that the secret is I. And the secret is that not that I will be or that I will get. The secret is that I am. I and my Father are one. And all that my Father is, I am. And all that my Father has is mine. Now there comes that word is. And if you go back to my original textbook, The Infinite Way, you will find that the entire book is based on two small words. The word is and the word as. Because in that revelation it was given to me that God manifests as man. In other words, man is the instrument for the showing forth of God's life, God's glory, God's infinite being. I will ask you for a moment, we'll digress for a moment. In your mind's eye, look out at this world, any part of this world that comes to you, and see it without a man or woman or child. Just think out on the street outside or the country, the mountains, the seashore, and see this world without man, woman, or child. And then see if you can't realize what a useless place this would be. How it would lack for any purpose in being. Why should there be beautiful trees? Why should there be coal or platinum in the ground? Why should there be diamonds? Why should there be pearls in the sea? Why should there be these beautiful stars in the sky? Why should there be anything if there is no man, no woman, no child? It's all useless. It's a waste. This world only has a reason for being in man. This world only comes to fruition in man. With man, woman, child on this earth, All of the earth has a reason. It has a reason for being. And that reason is man, to glorify, to supply, to beautify. What purpose would music have without man? What purpose would art have without man? What purpose would culture have without man? Why, it would just be a nothingness in nowhere. It takes man to fulfill this earth. It takes man to show forth all the beauties of this earth, to utilize them, to experience them. And there we have the whole secret of God. What would God be if there were no man? How would God be glorified? Without music, without harmony, without the joy of our united intercourse, our association? What would God be if there were no love? And where would love be without man, woman, child? Birds, flowers. Do you not see that man's function is to show forth God's glory? When Scripture says the heavens declare the glory of God and the earth showeth forth his handiwork, could that be true without man? It takes man to complete this picture. It takes man to show forth God's glory, God's beauty, God's harmony, God's music, God's love, God's peace, God's joy. Therefore, there is no God without man, and there can be no man without God. And the two must be one in order that God's grace may be made manifest. God's grace must be made manifest in you, or God has no purpose. Once you realize this, you will realize that we were not placed on earth to earn our living by the sweat of our brow. We were not meant to bring forth children in pain and labor. We were not meant to be on earth in war and strife with each other. We have only come to that mad state of consciousness, that state of madness, because of our sense of separation from God. Being separate from God, we seem to be 40, 50 people here, each one having to struggle for their own living, each one having to provide their own home, each one having to do this, that, or the other thing, and it's a lie. All based on the belief that I am is God up here, and we are sick and suffering humanity down here. And as long as that belief lasts, we will struggle for our good. We will even struggle for our health. How unnecessary is all of this struggle? Well, life really is lived by grace. And if you will recall, this is the secret of the Master's revelation, that you were under the law. In your Hebrew life, in your sense of separation from God, you were under the law. And you had to struggle and strive. But now you are under grace. Well, if you are under grace, your struggle is over. Your striving is over. You no longer live by taking thought for your life. You no longer live by might or by power. You live by my Spirit. But that will never be if you believe that my Spirit is somewhere separate from you, and that you may be keeping it from yourself by some sin of omission or commission. or because you haven't time to give as many hours to study as you think necessary. It isn't the amount of hours that you give to it that brings God's grace. It's what degree of realization you attain. The minutes or the hours that you spend with your writings should represent the smallest part of your entire demonstration, because it isn't what you read that will make your demonstration, but to what extent what you read occupies your consciousness. In other words, the words that I'm saying to you right now are life. The words that I'm saying to you right now are supply, harmony, and peace, but only in proportion as you accept them and then maintain them. Ye shall know the truth. Ye shall pray without ceasing. Only in proportion as morning, noon, and night you permit this song to be sung in you. The Son of God is within me. The Son of God, the Christ of God, the Spirit of God is my abundance, is the health of my countenance, is the divine grace of God. The Son of God has been given to me by the grace of God. The grace of God has planted the tree of life in the midst of me. The tree of life is Christ, the Son of God, the Spirit of God. And this must, with single vision, be maintained day and night, day and night. This must be the song. I and my Father are one. The search is over. I have found the Holy Grail within myself. I have found the kingdom of God within myself. My life is not to be lived by might or by power, but by the indwelling Spirit of God. You remember Paul discovered this? I live, yet not I. Christ, the indwelling Christ, liveth my life. I can do all things through the Christ that dwelleth in me. So you see, it wasn't only Jesus who had the Christ. Here is Paul who has discovered the Christ. Later on, John discovers the I am, and discovers that this very I am is life eternal. There is that within you that constantly voices itself in these words: I am come that you might have life, that you might have life more abundant. But you must be listening for that voice. You must be permitting this message to utter itself within you. I am come within you, that you might have life and that you might have it more abundantly. I am within you as the source of your abundance, the source of your grace, the source of your health. Even if your body is torn apart in 3 days, I, in the midst of you, will raise it up again. I, this Christ, the Son of God, in the midst of you, will restore your body. You see then, as you live with this, it gradually dawns on you that the I am which is God is likewise the I am which is man, and that this I am is one and the same, and not two. There is only one I am, and I am that I am. Before the revelation, Moses thought God was I am, but he didn't know that I am also I am until in his mountaintop experience, his high vision, he realizes, I am that I am. I am that very I am which is God. And the I am which is God is the I am which I am. Therefore, I am not sick or sinning mortal man as I appear to be. I am the divine offspring of God, the same I am. And this is true universally. The I am which is God is shown forth as the I am which I am. The I am which is God is shown forth as the I am which I am. You are, you are, you are, you are. Because there is but one I am infinitely showing itself forth, that God's glory may be on earth as it is in heaven. How could the kingdom of God be on earth if God weren't on earth? If God was separate from his kingdom, the kingdom wouldn't be heaven. Now, heaven and earth are two different places as far as the world is concerned, and heaven is the promised land, and this place that we're on is somewhere in between the promised land and the land of the damned. But it isn't true. The kingdom of God comes on earth to any individual in the moment of their realization. I am in the midst of me is mighty. I am in the midst of me is the Son of God. I am in the midst of me is the resurrection of this very body, taking it up out of any grave, the grave of sin or the grave of disease, the grave of death or the grave of lack. Only one thing can lift us up, and I am that one thing. I am in the midst of you. And therefore, you may have for a secret, sacred passage, in the face of any problem, in the face of any lack, I have meat. The world knows not how. That is a song that sings itself in me every single day of my life. Over and over and over, that is the song of my inside being. I have meat. I have. Why? Because I and my Father are one. We are inseparable and indivisible. I and my Father are one. Thou seest me, thou seest the Father that sent me. The Father is greater than I because the Father is the withinness of me, the creative part of me. I don't have to take thought for creation. I don't have to create anything. I don't have to create supply. I don't have to create books. I don't have to create anything at all, because it is the inner part of me that is the creative part. The outer part of me is the receiving part. So I do not have to take thought for what I shall eat, what I shall drink, because the I within me is taking care that the I of the outer self is provided for. Therefore, if I'm with Elijah in the wilderness and there's no visible means of support, the I that is within me causes ravens to bring food or a widow to share it. If I am with Moses, the I am within me will part the Red Sea or cause manna to fall from the sky, cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. I humanly don't do this, and I humanly can't take thought about it or create it, but I can rest in my I amness, and then let God perform. He performeth that which is given me to do. Let God perform while I become a witness. I become a witness to this cloud by day, this pillar of fire by night. I become a witness of supply being brought to me. I become a witness of my health unfolding, not by taking thought, not by might nor by power, certainly not by my wisdom, certainly not by any truth that I know, but by my Spirit, by the Spirit of the Christ which is within me, which liveth my life. Now you see, just imagine, for nearly an hour we haven't left the one subject of I. And actually you could go on for hours and hours and hours and never reach the end of the subject. So infinite am I, that I that is within me. But the reason I point this out to you is that unless you too hold with single vision to this truth, you will not bring it into manifestation in your experience, because the truth itself won't do it. It is, ye shall know the truth, and then the truth will do it. It is your knowing that brings it about. In other words, nothing can enter your experience except through your consciousness. You have to open your consciousness to whatever is to come in to your experience. And so it is that in giving a class in San Francisco, in the very beginning of our work, while seated just like this in the midst of the class, the revelation was given: my conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. My conscious oneness with God. Not my oneness with God. We're all one with God. All the people in the hospitals are one with God. All those in the mental institutes are one with God. All those in the poorhouses are one with God. It isn't the oneness with God that does it. It is my conscious oneness with God. My being consciously aware of my relationship to God. My consciousness of the presence of God. This brings into my experience everything necessary for my unfoldment. This brings into my experience everything necessary for my good. Now, right from the beginning of our work, these revelations have been coming, these unfoldments have been given. Unfortunately, we have been recording them. And it is for this reason that every unfoldment that has come to me since 1948 has been recorded and is available. It is for that reason that these tape groups exist, so that those who wish to hear the particular unfoldments of the infinite way may do so, and none of them have ever been lost. We will never have to depend on manuscripts that somebody else has tampered with, because everything has been recorded on these tapes and is available. Throughout this period, the unfoldment of the infinite way has been a consistent one, that is, along certain specific lines, without deviation. And it is for this reason that we must be cleared out of some of our previous conceptions and misconceptions and decide to follow one particular path. Let it be any path that seems right to you, any path to which you respond, but let it be that path. And so it is that if you are going to embark on a demonstration, a proof of the message of the infinite way, start with this principle that you have been given today and be consistent with it. Hold to it inwardly in spite of any and all appearances. It makes no difference if you are called upon to go through 40 years of the desert with Moses or 3 years of turmoil with the Master. Cling to that which you feel inwardly to be truth. Cling to one particular facet of truth, if necessary, until it comes into experience. I and my Father are one. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my supply, constitutes my oneness with supply. The reason is, God is manifest as me. Right in the me that I am is all of the Godhead bodily. All of God's grace is manifest in me. All of God's presence, all of God's power is manifest in me. None of it is missing. It was with me before Abraham, but I didn't know it. But since it was revealed to me, it has been consciously with me and consciously proving itself, so that the whole record of my spiritual life shows forth that God's glory has been made evident on earth through the instrument, through the child which I am. Nothing that has been accomplished in my work has been personal, because I never had it. It was always God's grace showing through, coming through, God's Spirit that came through. But then, I am only one, and every one of you is that one. In proportion as you accept this, that the reason you are on earth is that God's glory may be made manifest. You are that very place where the Spirit of God, the life of God, the glory of God is to show forth, because you and your Father are one. All that the Father hath is yours, and you only have to accept that and let it begin to shine through.